This goulash is delicious. So I'm here to talk about this thing, a shell/mouse from AliExpress. I'll first go over what it is, which I partially explained already, and then I'll go over who I think is it for, the physical dimensions, some comparisons to the G305, on which it is based, and finally my conclusions. Looking at the AliExpress listing, you can tell what it is and what it isn't, but I'll explain anyway. It's supposed to be a around 60 gram lightweight alternate shell for the Logitech G305. It's supposed to have the shape of the Zowie FK2 and the Zowie S2, but really this mouse or the shell is the shape of an S2, just a little bit lower in terms of height than a regular S2, and I guess that's why they've included the FK2 also in here. You have the option of getting it all plastic, even on the sides, which is nylon, as we'll go over in a short while. They have a description, which we're gonna read and assess, and you can also buy it with a carbon fiber sidebar, and this is real carbon fiber, by the way, but I have the version without the carbon fiber insert. And they're also selling a pair of, lighter weight 3D printed buttons. They have other listings as well. Their name is Gnome Store, and I saw this mouse being sold by other vendors on AliExpress, but to me it seemed like this was the original one, and the other vendors might be, I don't know, alt accounts of theirs or just other people who are selling this very same shell. But my gut feeling is, which you should take with a grain of salt, is that the guys behind Gnome Store designed the shell first. And what I mean by other shells, they have a wheel mouse optical look-alike and feel-alike, which doesn't get rid of the DPI button, and the S2 version, which I'm gonna be talking about in this video, does get rid of that button. And they also have 3D printed battery covers in different sizes, but the most interesting one for me at least is this one, which changes the shape. I'm gonna ask for this one and the wheel mouse optical shaped shell, and maybe receive a unit of both to make a video about it, about both of them. We'll see. But moving on to the description that they gave, I'm just gonna go over it and assess what they say. This serves is to refit the G304 and G305, which are the same mouse, by the way. The only difference is the name. They renamed the G304 for Asian markets, and as a latest side note, in Japan, Logitech is actually called Logicool, legal reasons probably. In your hand, into a touch between the Zowie FK2 and S2. I've explained that earlier. The length, the width and height of the grip. These measurements are not really accurate. I took mine with a caliper and the kitchen scale, and I'm gonna show you all of those in a minute. After installing the battery, the center of gravity is slightly in front of the middle, which I completely agree with. The shell is printed with nylon material. I don't know. I couldn't possibly assess this because I'm not well versed in 3D printing, so I'm just gonna have to believe them. With its own abrasive and skid-proof effect. Alright, I guess. It does not contain the floating weight of the battery, about 57 grams, affected by the batch of printing materials. So what they mean to say here is that without the battery it weighs 57 grams. Again, I made my own measurement, and we're gonna take a look at this. This style uses carbon fiber plate chassis, less than plastic, and obtain higher strength than plastic. I guess they're trying to say that they also use carbon fiber for the bottom plate, which weighs even less than the plastic, but is stronger despite that. I mean, you're watching a video where somebody who has English as their third language translates a Chinese AliExpress seller's description. Don't hold your expectations too high for the grammatical and whatever correctness of this video. The whole chassis is raised 2 mm from the inside, and the chassis will not rub against the mousepad. It doesn't rub about to the mousepad if you have their provided feet on, which are great, by the way. I enjoy using them more than Tiger Arcs. And the problem with Tiger Arcs is that they don't stick to the bottom of the mouse that well, so they can bulge out. You know, if you ever had Tiger Arcs, like those white PTFE feet, you can push down on them with your finger, start playing a game, and lift up your mouse an hour later, or maybe a day later, and you realize that they bulged out in the center, and the place where they are still sticking to the bottom of your mouse is just the corners of the actual mouse feet. So that's why I stopped using Tiger Arcs. Getting back to this shell, battery bunker directly uses no number 7 battery, which I guess is another name for AAA batteries, so you don't have to use a converter or tinfoil or anything else. You just pop in your AAA battery and you're set to go, preferably a lithium one to keep the weight down. Again, we'll get back to this, the weights, in just a minute. This section in the installation needs to polish the back of the side key, polish the right side edges and corners, cut off the back pins of the side K PCB because of the new model production time, blah 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 blah. What they're saying here is not entirely correct. I was taken aback and I was worried when I've ordered the shell after reading this, but really the only thing you have to do is just chip off 3 pin endings on the side button PCB. You don't need to do any sanding or anything else. And also, there's no soldering job involved with this mod. You just take out your G305 inner components with a screwdriver and you put them in here like Lego. You don't need to solder anything, thankfully. And I've already made a time-lapse video about assembling this mouse. So if you're curious about the assembly process, you can watch that video. The link will be put into the description. While I scroll through these images, I'll just close off this section about what this is and who I think is it for. It's your option if you want a high-performance wireless mouse like the G305, G Pro Wireless, Razer Viper Ultimate, but you don't like the shape and weight of the current offerings, or even the price. If you order a G304 from AliExpress for around $35, and you also order this shell for around $45, you'll get a Zowie S2 shaped 3D printed mouse for below $100. Of course, you have to be willing to do some tinkering with the mouse, assembling it, disassembling your G304, but what you'll get is a pretty good deal. The overall price is gonna end up around the same as the Pwnage Ultra Custom costs on Kickstarter, and you're getting a really proven shape in wireless form. The performance of this whole thing is the same as the G305's performance. So if you're curious about that and the features and the software, I would recommend you to watch Rocket Jump Ninja's review about the G305. I'll also link that in the description. He does a really good review and throughout review about pretty much every mouse he receives, so I always recommend his reviews. So yeah, the performance will be the same. I'm here to assess what's different. I'll obviously put the AliExpress listing link in the description as well, so you can scroll through all of these images. But with all this said, I'll just move on to the next phase. I'm gonna show you pictures of how the mouse arrives. And if your eye is good and if YouTube's quality is also good, you will be able to see, like here and there, that the printing is pretty rough, and that's why I recommend sanding the whole surface of the mouse where your hand touches it after you've assembled it. You get one extra Teflon feet in case you lose one, and you also get one extra see-through plastic washer. You only need 2, but you get 3, as you can see. These are the magnets. One of them goes to the shell, the other one goes to the battery cover. It's really a clever design, as I've said. These are really strong magnets, and the battery cover is held in place by them without any movement, even if you swing your mouse around real hard. This part holds the side button PCB. This part holds the on-off switch at the bottom of the mouse. This part goes to the front right here and holds 2 mouse feet, and these already attached parts to the main shell hold the other 2. And this is the carbon fiber bottom plate, which pretty much gives the whole thing its rigidity. And this is how the mouse looks. I put some white tack on here to the lens because they were moving around a little bit, just less than a millimeter, but it was annoying me. The designers thought about this, so they designed the part which holds the side buttons to have an extending arm here. You can see the white plastic nylon thing here, which pushes the lenses forwards. But that solution, while I appreciate the thought, it doesn't secure the lens in place perfectly. So I just put some white tack on the side of it. You could put some more on the other side, maybe some more in the front. If I do happen to miss anything in this video, if I don't explain everything, then feel free to post your comments below the video. If they're more complicated, then come to my Discord channel, link in the description. As for the weight of the mouse, as you can see, their numbers weren't really correct. It's just 54 grams. They were selling themselves short by stating 56, or if I remember correctly. If you put in your 7 gram lithium AAA battery, like I have here, you can use all kinds of different brands, it doesn't really matter. I used Varta, I used Energizer, Ultimate Lithiums. Both did the job just fine. It becomes 61 grams when you put it in. If you put in the cover, which is optional, if you want to save 1 gram, you can play without the cover. It becomes 62 grams. And by the way, my modded G304 or 5 is 77 grams, and my G403 wireless is 85. Moving on to the dimensions, the grip width at the bottom of the mouse, at the very bottom where you're not really going to be holding the mouse, is 5.4 centimeters. A little bit above where you would typically hold the mouse, it's like 5.77, 5.8 centimeters basically. The length of it is 11.8, so almost 12, and the height is like 3.5. Also, the last measurement, which is really important and many people seem to gloss over it, is the button height, which could be lower. I wish it was lower on every mouse I've tried. The button height and the grip width made the G Pro Wireless not perfect for me. Those 2 measurements were the reason I even searched for another mouse after trying the G Pro Wireless, because it worked perfectly for me, it didn't even double click. But the button height on this, where I press the buttons usually, is 2.2 centimeters measured from the Teflon feet, as you can see on the picture. So now that I've established what this mouse is and who do I think it is for, it's time for some comparisons with the G305 and some personal thoughts and a conclusion for all of this. The side buttons, they are more crisp and tactile when compared to the G305, and not just the stock basic G305. Even after I've disassembled my G305 and tightened the side buttons, they were still not as crisp and clicky as the ones on here. So again, hats off to the designer of this shell. I put some grip tape on the side here, on the left side for my thumb. I found it enough to have it here. I didn't need it here, because I didn't want to make the mouse too wide, even though the grip tape is just 0.5 millimeter thick. It doesn't add any weight on the scale, the mouse still stays 62 grams with it on. And if you want to apply the same tape, it's a G Pro Wireless Tiger Arc grip tape from AliExpress as well. I'll also link it in the description. It fits pretty well in my opinion. although not perfect. And surprisingly, the G Pro wireless grip tips for the main buttons also fit like acceptably. You'll need to cut some of them off if you want to fit them perfectly on here. So after all of these positives, let me add some cons and negatives to this review, and then we'll move on to some further positives. What you're losing here is the DPI button from the G305. You can still adjust the DPI from the software from LGS, Logitech Gaming Software. Thankfully, the G305 and the G304 is still supported in that. You don't have to suffer with G-Hub, which I did and many of us did, and it's terrible, still terrible. You're also losing some protection for the sensor and the PCB from the bottom, so it can get dusty more easily. You have to blow a little bit to it, like every 1 or 2 hours. Otherwise, it can start to drift erratically because of the dust particles gathered on the lens. Other than that, the only thing I can think of you're losing compared to the original G305, which you'll have to sacrifice, is your warranty, obviously, and a slot for the wireless dongle to put in, because this has no slot. But aside from that, if you didn't like the G305's shape, I think you're only winning here. After a little bit of tinkering, putting the thing together, and of course waiting for the items to be delivered from AliExpress, you'll end up with a $90 Zowie S2 shaped, a little bit lower Zowie S2 shaped, 62-gram wireless mouse with all the perks and benefits of the G305, just in a different shape and weight configuration. And I don't think I'm mistaken when I say that would be a lot of people's endgame, at least until the next lightweight wireless mouse comes out to the market. I know that I've played a lot with this mouse in the last half a year, and I had a lot of fun moments and frags with it. At first it was a bit too light for my taste. I had to adjust. Previously I was using the G305, the G403 wireless, and even the G Pro wireless, which were all, although not really heavyweight mice, but weightier than this one. And I was really overshooting at the beginning, but as I got adjusted more and more to the low weight and the overall shape of the mouse, I got more confident with it when aiming in FPS games. To be perfectly honest, I'm probably gonna sell the mouse, because what I've also found out while I've used this mouse and went back a little bit to my old FK2 is that what I would really like to have is this kind of a mouse, but in FK2 flavor, so perfect FK2 shape. I don't know if I'm gonna ask someone like Piranha or Raccoon Kill. I don't know if I'm gonna get a Zowie FK2 and put a 3D printed bottom plate on it. That wouldn't solve my whole problem, because I hate the buttons on the FK2. They're too stiff because of the shell. So maybe I would have to ask help from someone to completely 3D print an FK2 for me. But yeah, anyway, please give this video a rating and share it with anyone who you think might be interested in this. And if you wanna see more content like this, then do subscribe to the channel. Plus, if you wanna help me eat more goulash and stay alive, then buy stuff through the links in the description, like this shell or any other mouse. Also, if you're the guy behind Gnome Store on AliExpress and you're watching this, please let me have a sample of the wheel mouse optical type shell and the elongated G305 extension thingy. And also, if somebody's watching from Ponage, then I want an ultra custom as well for a review.